hear these words. It says, "So when the people set from their tents to cross the Jordan with the priests carrying the ark of the covenant before the people, and when those who carried the ark came into the Jordan, and the feet of the priests carrying the ark were dipped in the edge of the water, for the Jordan overflows all its banks all the days of harvest." So it is the Jordan River separates, the land of Canaan, the promised land, from where they're at. And the river is a fast-flowing river, and it's at flood stage. It says, "The waters which were flowing down from above stood and rose in one heap a great distance away at Adam, the city which is beside Zethron, and those which were flowing down toward the sea of Arabia." So what had happened is that God told Joshua, and Joshua told them, as soon as the feet of the priests hit the edge of the water will stop flowing, it'll be dry, and we can walk across. Well, that would be a good miracle, wouldn't it? That'd be a good trick. And they're all looking for this to happen because Moses' tenure depends on this. He has the whole nation of Israel behind him. He stepped in. His first act in the shoes of Moses is to lead them into the promised land. The priests have the ark, and they put their feet in the water. And if you read it carefully, it said, "And the water upstream by Adam, a city about 17 miles upstream, was dammed up and stopped to flow." Which means all the water from Adam to where they were was still flowing. Now, if you are an engineer, you might be able to figure out how long does it take for the remainder of the water at what speed to flow and get past. Well, it's going to take a little while. It isn't going to be instantaneous. And remember, you're Joshua. And you're waiting because God said he would do this. He just didn't tell you how he was going to do it. And so you and all of Israel behind you is waiting for this water to disappear, this water to be dry land. And of course it starts upriver, but it takes a while for that water to pass and to be dry land. How many times have we believed something, and because it didn't happen as quickly as we thought it should, or that we believed it would have, did we start picking up stones like the Israelites and saying, well, let's just do in this imposter, this Joshua. He isn't Moses. He can't take Moses' place. He said the river would part. He's got us this far. And now we're just going to die here at the edge of the river. We can't get across it. This river, this obstacle, this thing separates us from the promised land. And this guy says he would take us into the promised land. And apparently he's lying, because the river is still flowing full of water. I don't know, if I were Joshua, I'd be probably pretty nervous. Not knowing what's going on, thinking, God, did you pull a trick on me? Did I not hear you correctly? Was it in my imagination only? Until the waters passed, and the priest could carry the ark and stand in the middle, and all of Israel pass over and through the waters as a generation they did at the Red Sea, and go into the promised land. Joshua, as well as all of Israel, heard the promise, and then they had to wait. And then they had to wait. The Bible is full of God's promises and then the instructions to wait. To wait on God. Well, we're not, us Americans, we're not a waiting kind of people, are we? We have instantaneous everything. Put it in the microwave. And how many people think the microwave isn't fast enough? I mean, when I put that bag of popcorn in, I want it yesterday, not, 20 seconds from now. We are a people who want, if I have to stand in line behind two other people, come on. We want things now, instantaneously. We want immediate gratification. God says, wait. Wait. Joshua, the word to him as a leader is good and true but it's in God's timing. And finally they cross the river Jordan. And they get to Jericho, this fortified city. This place that is filled with giants in their estimation. Now they're in the promised land, yet it isn't theirs. There is this huge city, double-walled, filled with giants. And God says, I will do. See, the song really is a misnomer. Joshua didn't fight the battle of Jericho. God fought the battle of Jericho. Joshua was told, this is how we're going to do it. I want you to march around the walls with all the people. And I want you to be quiet until I give you the word. When I give you the word, then shout. When I give you the word, then sing. When I give you the word, then praise. But not until I give you the word. And 7 times they would march around the walls before they came tumbling down. Now let's say you sit on the board of directors of the nation Israel, if there was such a thing, and you were going to go into the promised land. And the first obstacle to that promised land is the city of Jericho. And you got a bunch of people, but none of them are soldiers, none of them are warriors. How are you going to take this huge fortified city with big walls, doubled at that, filled with giants? Would you like to be Joshua and say, hey people, here's how we're going to do it. We're going to be very quiet and we're going to march around. Yeah, they'll be shooting arrows at us and throwing stones and stuff, but it's all right. Just march around. And then when we get the word, we'll sing out praises to our God. And God will go from there. That's how we're going to defeat them. How many people are ready to follow Joshua? Not on your life. Who would do such a thing? What does this tell us about God and faith and how we estimate things and how we would conquer? What does it tell us? What does it tell you about your life and the problems and the issues that you face, that you're ready to run into and fix? What does it tell you about the reality of God and trusting and waiting? There's another city called Ai, and here's a good lesson. The walls of Jericho, they came tumbling down, just as God said. I'll take all of you. You're all in this. You'll all do it together. You'll walk around. You'll burst forth into praise and singing, and the walls will come tumbling down, and the people will run, and it will be yours. But because this land is filled with some of the most horrendous and horrible and evil people that ever existed, that do things that are abominations. They sacrifice babies. They do things that are unexplainable. Everything that's good for life, they're against. They must be wiped out. And I don't want you in any way to be affected by them. I don't want you to even mingle with them because they are so corrupt and so evil. They will be destroyed and removed from the land. And I will put you there to become a holy nation, that the world might know that I am God. So, take nothing, no plunder. When you go in, doesn't matter what it is, you don't get it, you don't touch it. You leave it alone, no one can take anything. But there's this one guy, this one general named Achan. And Achan sees some gold, he sees some silver, he sees some good stuff, some loot. So he secretly takes it and hides it in his tent. Well, God knows. Remember when your parents used to tell you, I might not be able to see you, but God does. Yeah, God saw this guy buried in the tent. And then the next battle comes up. It's Ai. And they send some people and say, Ai is a little place, puny. We don't need to take all the people. What did God say? Take all the people. We do this all together, or we don't do it at all. But they said, we don't need to take all the people. Just send a couple thousand. Yeah, 3 or 4. Ai is small. So they go, 3 or 4. They got the loot. Achan does. that they're not supposed to have. And they go against this little place called Ai, and Ai kicks their hind end, kills them all. And there's the leader. He just took down Jericho, but little old Ai. What does that teach us? A mighty victory, Jericho, because we followed what the Lord told us to do. And now it makes no sense. Little Ai, why couldn't we take little Ai? Because we didn't follow what God told us to do. We decided to come up with a better solution, a more reasonable approach. We just sent a few. And then there's that issue of the stolen property that he didn't want us to have. Well, that's discovered. Joshua has to deal with that. He returns to Ai after they have repented. They take Ai, the conquest of the land. Pretty soon the land will be theirs. It's the conquest of Canaan and all of Israel. And then the death of Joshua. Joshua will be buried, as was the bones of Jacob, brought from Egypt, buried in the promised land. They follow Joshua and they take the land. They find when they obey God and they trust God, they do well. When they deviate from God's plan, they don't do so well. When we fight the battles, we can hear the words, the battle belongs to God. If it belongs to you, you may or may not win. Good luck. I personally know that when I fought battles and when I fight battles, I don't fare so well. We're not called to fight the battle. We're called to trust in God. Battles come into our life all the time. We're up against battles are the norm. They're not the exception. Issues are the norm. Life is difficult. And you can try to take it on with all of your powers and all of your brains and all of your strength and everything you got and see how that does for you. Or you can put your trust in the Lord, which is a very scary thing. Trust and obey. Trust and obey. There's no other way to follow Jesus but to trust and obey. They're the same thing. Trust and obey is the same thing. And when we are called to trust and obey, we're given an opportunity to walk with God. Even when it doesn't make sense, even when it's counterintuitive, even when it doesn't seem like this is very practical, trust and obey. And the walls of Jericho, they'll come tumbling down. Now, you heard the song in the beginning. You're going to hear it now in the end. And you're going to get an opportunity to sing it because I want it to stick with you. I want you to go out of here humming it. I want you to go out throughout your week tapping your foot to it. I want you to own it, to know that your battles, your Jericho, whatever you're up against, those walls can come up tumbling down. Trust and obey. So, with a little help from my friends, if the choir will stand, if you all will stand, you will sing the chorus. There's the words. The choir will lead us, and we will fight the battle of Jericho.
And the Please be seated.